Yo, what is going on everyone? Guiding Light here, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you guys an overview of the brand new ultimate weapon, which is the Clairvoyance. Now, this is a special beam rifle, which you can unlock pretty late in the end game. I did make a video showing you guys pretty much the fastest routes in order to get this weapon, if you do want to go and grab it for yourself. Now, in my opinion, this is going to be one of the best weapons in the game due to its ultimate ability, and I highly suggest going out of your way to unlock this. Now, if you don't know what this weapon is, it's actually the weapon from the Dead Bride boss fight. So this is actually her weapon, essentially, given to us to use. Now, it's going to have this special perk on it here, where it says that hitting an enemy with a stage 2 beam inflicts Void Gaze. Now, if you look down there, it says Void Gaze basically inflicts a negative 20% chill resistance to the enemy. After that, it says hitting an enemy with stage 3 beam inflicts Appalled Calling. And what Appalled Calling does is it gives an enemy an additional 20% chill resistance, so they're going to have 40% chill resistance. And then it also gives them a negative 70% action speed. Now, what the action speed is essentially how fast the enemy can take action, how fast they can move, how fast they can try to attack you and fire their weapons and abilities. So I'm going to basically take this into the game and show you exactly how it works and explain to you exactly why it's such an incredibly good weapon due to all these different abilities that it has. Now keep in mind that it says it gives enemies negative 40% chill resistance. So that means if you're using a chill mod or if you have a chill character on, you're going to be able to do additional damage with those abilities the whole time that these enemies are debuffed. And keep in mind that it also works for your teammates. So if you have a teammate that has these abilities on and you're constantly hitting the enemies, it's going to give the buffs to them essentially as well. Another benefit to this weapon, which isn't directly listed, is that it essentially freezes the enemies in place because of that negative 70% action speed. And what this does is it allows your teammates to do insane amounts of damage because the enemies are essentially frozen. Now, not only can your enemies crit them extremely easily due to the fact that they're frozen, but they're not going to be taking damage either because the enemy's action speed's down 70%, meaning that they can do 70% essentially outgoing damage less than they normally would be able to. So as you can see here, the enemies will be slowed down as I begin to attack them. Now, if you remember, it said you had to have the stage 2 beam and the stage 3 beam active in order to get these perks up. Now, if you don't know how these beam rifles work, I'll explain how you can get stage 2 and stage 3 beam. Now, as you're firing your weapon, you're going to notice on this beam rifle, it's a little different than other weapons. You're going to sort of see this bar begin to charge up. Now, that bar is essentially your beam stage, and the more damage output continuously that you do, the higher beam count you're going to achieve. So this will be most sought after when going after those big bosses, guys with big health, because the more damage you can put on the same target, essentially the bigger beam stack you're going to get. Now, keep in mind, guys, this weapon is not leveled up at all, and it's doing incredible damage. On top of that, the benefits from the freeze perk are already being seen very, very well. So once this thing's fully stacked out and leveled up, I know it's going to be one of the craziest weapons in the game, and I highly, highly suggest starting to level up for it and start getting the parts. Now, right now, we're going to go up against an elite enemy, and that's where you're going to most notably see how good this thing is. Now, when I say how good it is, I'm talking about that perk where it's going to completely freeze enemies in place. You'll notice how normally these enemies, they'd be able to attack so quickly, but when they get hit with that stage 3 beam, they're going to be almost completely frozen. Now, you don't see how good it is when you're going up against these enemies that don't have a big health stack because they get taken down so easily, but you'll really, really be able to see it once going up against these elites. So as you can see here, now we have this elite enemy. We're going to take out these others. And as you can see, when you stacked up with that stage 3 beam, almost completely frozen in place. Now keep in mind, I'm not using my abilities intentionally so you can just see how much damage the weapon does and how good it is at freezing. But keep in mind, if I had a teammate with me and they had chill weapons on as well or a chill character, they're going to be able to crit out that enemy so quick because of the fact that they have that chill damage resistance and the fact that they're frozen in place. So the more health the enemy has, the better this perk will be. Now, taking it into the really, really big bosses, those void intercept battles, I noticed it actually does freeze those bosses up as well. So even against the really big bosses, it does freeze them. However, because the weapon's not leveled up all the way and that ultimate perk still needs buffing, it doesn't necessarily freeze them completely, but you will see them get slowed down a bit. That's why I'm saying once this thing's leveled up all the way, I know it's going to be one of the craziest weapons in the game. Now, one downside to it is the range isn't the greatest, But to be fair, when are you going to be trying to go for range attacks when using this? The whole point of it is to try to run as fast as you can, go around and freezing up all of the enemies for your teammates and just to be able to take them out. So it's fine with me that the range isn't the greatest. Compared to other beam rifles, it's actually way better than the range on some of the other ones. And I'm still working on certain builds and certain mods to perfect how this weapon will perform. Now, I want to be able to increase the clip size because the bigger the clip size, the more you can increase those stacks, the longer you can keep that stage 2 and stage 3 beam active, meaning that the more you can freeze up enemies as well. So there's definitely a lot of unique things you can do, a lot of different builds you can make for this weapon. I'm still in the process of trying to perfect that. So stay tuned to the channel if you guys want to see what this thing's going to be like in, a week or so, a few days, once I've got all 10 catalysts on it and I've completely maxed it out. Now, very quickly, guys, let's take it into the end of this hard mode intercept. Now, this is not one of the big bosses like, Executioner or something, but you're still going to be able to see how good it is at freezing up enemies when we go up against this major elite at the end of the mission. So you guys can see here, the end boss has spawned in here. These are the bosses that spawn in at the end of every mission. Now, I am on hard difficulty pretty well into the end, so these are definitely some of the higher level enemies in the game. And this, keep in mind, it's still only level 1, this Clairvoyance, or well, the weapon level is level 100, but it hasn't upgraded. We have not upgraded the exotic perk, the ultimate perk yet, and I have no crystallization catalyst. So that's what I mean when I say level 1. So we're going to take out the Clairvoyance now. You're going to be able to see that even against the big bosses, it's going to be able to slow these guys down as well, as you can see here. Now, anytime you want to know if your ultimate perk is in effect or if it's working, take a look underneath their health bar. You're going to be able to see these icons that pop up, basically displaying the fact that, yes, okay, your debuffs are active. As you can see, this boss is now slowed. You don't see the freeze effects on him. I'm not really sure why you don't see those freeze effects taking over his whole character or anything, but he is being slowed down, as you can see by the debuffs and as you can see by his outgoing damage. And this is where it's most beneficial because now you've got your teammates that are able to stack up their chill damage. You can the enemy's frozen, so you can crit them out really easy. And so, as much as this weapon is great even for solo players, it's going to get even better when you're on a full team with it. Now, keep in mind, you could even have 2 of your teammates running this weapon, and you're going to be able to stack all those buffs up twice over. So when you're reloading and the enemy becomes unfrozen, if you time your shots right, your teammate can just keep refreezing him in place. Also, we've got these chill characters with their abilities. So if you stack up the chill effects that come off the abilities with the clairvoyance on top of it, you pretty much freeze them nonstop infinitely. And this is before the build's even completely built out. So overall, this is one of the true ultimate weapons, I think, in the game. I've done some reviews of some of the other ultimate weapons. You can check out some of the videos with those. Don't get me wrong, they're great weapons. They're still fun to use, worth getting. But this is the true ultimate stuff that I think I was looking for when going out of my way for these ultimates. So I highly suggest going out of your way to get this weapon. Very quickly, I will take it into a void intercept battle. You're going to be able to see that, yeah, even against Hard Devour, we're able to freeze him up. We're able to slow him down. But I think because that perk isn't fully leveled up yet, you don't see as big of effect because he's such a big boss. He's got all this resistance. So it's going to take more ultimate upgrades in order to actually freeze him up completely or to see the major benefits against a boss like this. But we'll take him in there anyways, and we'll show you guys that, yes, the effects do take a place against this boss. Unfortunately, I didn't see any major effects where he got completely frozen. This either is going to take more ultimate upgrades, or essentially you're going to have to maybe have 2-3 teammates running this weapon to try to completely freeze the boss out. That would be crazy if you could actually completely freeze up one of these bosses and stop them from going immune. Now, I'm not saying that's possible. I mean, that's definitely going to take some testing, and I genuinely think that would take 4 teammates with fully maxed out Clairvoyance ultimate perks to even attempt that. But we'll see in the future. But you can see, guys, as I attack him, as I stack up that stage 3 beam, that debuff is hitting him and it's slowing him down very minimally. Maybe I'd say maybe like 2% of his overall speed. But it does take effect, and maybe once we stack up more of this, it'll completely freeze these bosses. Who knows? Hopefully you enjoyed this in-depth review. I highly suggest going to get this weapon, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.